One day I'm gonna be everything I wanna be. I don't let it get the most of me. One day I'm gonna be free. I wanna be everything I'm gonna be. My future right in front of me. One day I'm gonna be free. I wanna be free, then let me be free. From the depths of darkness, a voice emerges, a host with a fire burning in his soul, with a heart of steel and a spirit unbroken. He rides on two wheels, ready to claim his throne, amidst the chaos and the thunderous roar. Insane wheels rise as a force to be reckoned with, fueled by the power that only metal can bestow. He takes his stand, refusing to submit. Insane wheels hear his battle cry, a metal mayhem that will never die. With engines roaring, he paves his way, a legend in the making, day by day.
Wow. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's a beautiful Wednesday. It's a hump day morning. Let's get it this morning. Let's get it. Feels ultra good to be a G. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have a huge morning as always. So Trump made a somewhat of a speech, I think, last night or yesterday. So we're going to go ahead and play that for you guys. And as well as Putin and Xi are talking, apparently. We have that for you guys as well. Ebola alert. We have the new number of the confirmed cases and what they're tracking right now. So, ladies and gentlemen, as you guys know, we ran a campaign for JR Bowling. And listen, unfortunately, we did not win this go around. So let me go ahead and show you guys real quick what I wrote up. So I'll read it to you. I'm just going to be real about it. When turnout is around 7%, elections aren't about reaching everyone. They're about reaching that small group of people that actually show up. That's the reality. But here's the part that people aren't really talking about. JR still won executive committee statewide and at the county level. Now, side note, I don't know if you guys know this, but JR was on the ballot 3 times. He won 2 of his seats, but unfortunately, we did not get the Senate seat. Anyways, and that didn't happen by accident. That was people showing up and believing in what we were building. And at the same time, we forced Gallrein to spend over $1 million of his campaign money just to protect his position. Think about that for a second. If JR never runs, that money never gets spent in our communities the way it did. We didn't just show up. We made them respond. As for me, I stayed quiet about being on the ballot because my focus is where it needed to be, helping JR win. I announced running last night, which was obviously the day before now, and still had a lot of support behind me. And I'm grateful for every single person who showed up. No excuses, no regrets. We know exactly what we're up against now. And if this is what we can do with this kind of turnout, just wait until more people start paying attention. We're so grateful for the ones that stood up today to vote for JR Bowling. This isn't the end. This is just the beginning. Now, I'm going to show you guys the results instead of you guys seeing it on this little tiny screen here. I actually uploaded the results onto here. So let me go ahead and show you guys JR's run first. There is at the very top. As you guys can see, Gallrein had the 58.4% with 8682 votes, and JR had 6184. And so that was for the Senate. And then here's my race right here. At the very bottom, I was running against a man named Todd Floyd. Todd Floyd, now respect to him. He's a nice guy and all, and I have nothing but nice things to say about him. But, you know, he is the judge's brother here locally, right here where I live, you know. So anyways, so this is the results here. As you guys can see, Todd Floyd beat me at 840 votes with 55.15%. And then me, Mike Ball, with 683 votes at 44.85%. Now here's, and also, as you guys can see right above me on this, that's where JR won his first seat with the Coleman County Republican Executive Committee. That was basically what I was running for, but he was running for a different part of it. I was running for Fairview. He was running for, a certain particular part as well. Then we have this right here. Sorry, I cut it off a little bit. I didn't mean to. It was just bad edit. And then you can see State Republican Executive Committee, Coleman County, and Bowling. JR actually got 73-26 votes because it's statewide. And then the guy he ran against only had 26% of the vote. So he still won, you know what I mean? And this is just the beginning, man. And truly, for every single person that went out there and voted for JR and myself, I'm going to be honest. That was extremely, extremely humbling. Actually having people show up and fill in the box for you is very humbling, man. It's something that I'm touched, honestly. And, I was able to have such amazing relationships being built throughout this campaign, and this is something I would never take back. So I'm very honored to be a part of it. And like I said, this is just the beginning. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and bring up the what we're going to be ended up talking about. Well, first, let me tell you guys the chronological timeline of what we're looking at this morning first, and then we'll get into the, all the madness, Anyways, San Diego shooting, we have an update on that whole thing with the Islamic Center in San Diego. Victims identified in mosque attack. So they have governmental officials standing there. Looks like chief of police. I'm sure there's a sheriff involved there somewhere, whatever. They actually have, and they're going to show us what the victims that unfortunately died in that attack, they're going to show it. Anyways, then we're going to be talking a little bit about Kentucky primary. Thomas Massie falls to Trump-backed Ed Gallrein. I don't know how to say his last name, to be honest, the guy that won against Thomas Massie. But now Trump came out and spoke last night. So Trump and, of course, the First Lady spoke, but we're going to skip what she has to say, honestly. And listen, we're on a time crunch. I don't need to hear from Melania. I need to hear from Trump. Trump speak to lawmakers during White House congressional picnic that happened last night. Then we have the man that beat Thomas Massie. He has some remarks after defeating Massie in GOP House primary. And then we have Putin visits Xi days after Trump's high-stake trip to Beijing. Now, there's a lot of movement going on here. It says we're getting the latest updates as Russian President Vladimir Putin arrived this week in China for meetings with Xi. Putin's meetings with the Chinese leader come less than a week after President Donald Trump made his own high-stakes visits to Beijing. Anyway, so we have that for you guys as well. Then we're going to get into the Ebola outbreak, Congo Ebola outbreak specific. More than 100 deaths now have happened. UN rushes medical supplies. Let me go ahead and read this. There have been more than 500 cases and at least 134 deaths due to the Ebola outbreak in Congo. This comes as the United Nations is shipping medical supplies to help fight the outbreak. Common symptoms include fever, headache, muscle pain, vomiting, diarrhea, and weakness. I'm sure of that. Then we have, just as of 3 hours ago, Russia's President Vladimir Putin visits Beijing. Of course, we know that, but this is the update this morning as of just 3 hours ago. So I'm sure that we have some updates on that. Then, of course, we have Trump speaks to reporters ahead of his Connecticut trip, which is this morning. So that's only an hour ago. So right now, theoretically, Trump is probably right now in the air headed to Connecticut right now. Anyways, all right. So that's what our morning is looking like right now. Real quick, we got Naomi coming in with the 5 spot, by the way, saying, so proud of you, Mike and JR. This is just the beginning. W to you both. Thank you very much for that, by the way. That goes a long way, and I hit that like button over there on that super chat. Thank you very much for the 5 spot, Naomi. Definitely goes a long way. Great to see everyone in the chat, man. Hopefully everyone's enjoying themselves, having a wonderful morning so far. Definitely know that we are. We got Rabbit of Chaos in the building, as well as Steve Easy. We got Brother PJ, as well as Carney Vanguard. Virginia Chaos, good morning to you guys, man. We got Charlie Rose, as well as Kel up there in Canada. Good morning to you, kind sir. Always appreciate you guys, man. And yes, all that money he paid too. He paid over $1 million. He handed out over $1 million because we forced his hand. He had to defend his position. Anyways, we got 5150 in the building as always. Always appreciate you as well as Cameron. Always appreciate you as well. Like what you did with the song. I noticed the changes are too long to write about. I appreciate that. So Loud says he likes the new jam. I appreciate that as well. Mr. Rick, good morning to you. We got Pablo as well. Let's see. We got Josh Phillips over here on the Facebook side of things. Very much appreciate you. And yes, Josh Phillips, absolutely. We're watching. We're paying attention. And more people are paying attention now because of it. TVT up there in Canada as well. Good morning to you. We got Brother Wildcard as well. Good morning. Good morning. And we got Steve Posey. Hopefully you're enjoying the morning as well. Mike, your race was close, bro. I'm proud of you that you're not going to quit. No, absolutely not. This is not the end. This is definitely not the end. It's just the beginning. We got Jack in the building as well. Appreciate you. We got Liquored Up with Pancho. Yes, sir. Good morning. Good morning. Let's see. I'm scrolling as fast as humanly possible, guys. I'm sorry. I try not to, leave any of you guys out. All right. Let's go ahead and get into the wildness this morning. In the San Diego shooting, and also the victims have been identified in that mosque attack. So let's go ahead and figure this out together.
Let me start by saying we're going to try to cover many of the developments that we've learned over the last 24 hours. We're going to identify the names of the victims from yesterday's horrific event. But what I want to really start with explaining to everybody, particularly in our Muslim community. I know it may not feel this way.
Oh, yeah. That's right. Because I went, that's funny. Naomi's like, no, hold on. You can't continue on. You got calls to actions to do. We got things to do over here. We got to, that's so great. Listen, I appreciate that. Let me go ahead and do that real quick. I did fail on that. You got to embrace your fuck ups. Listen, make sure you guys hit that like button. It definitely goes a long way. Double tap that screen if you guys are on the vertical side, and hit that subscribe button. This is what we do Monday through Saturday, obviously. Now, Saturday is actually our members only. Now, speaking of members, please consider becoming a member, starting only at $3.99 a month. We're making sure we're not breaking the bank out there with anybody, but check it out. This is what allows us to be on these airwaves as well as have these lights on. So thank you guys for becoming members and staying members. Little side note here, follow my Instagram at BallValveTV, where I post everything behind the scenes of not only my life, but as well as the show. Millennial Food Time, breaking news. And listen, man, we can no longer say the campaign trail for right now because we're no longer on the campaign trail actively, but that doesn't mean that we're not going to stop, quote unquote, campaigning for our message, right? So anyways, follow us right there at Ball Valve TV. And we also have a Discord server for all of you legends. Make sure you guys go in the video description down below of any live video, and that's where the invite is. Last but not least, all super chats, super stickers, gifted memberships, and membership signups are, of course, all going to be presented live and shouted out onto the show. But if you guys like to skip that YouTube 30% brutal cut that they take from your hard-earned cash, we have these platforms that are scrolling around the screen, and anytime you donate to those, I get 100% of the proceeds. And listen, I'll read out loud anything that comes our way, just like a super chat, so your voice is heard. All right, so we've got it. We're scanning. We're always watching. Now we're good. Let's get it back into the story.
Community. You're going to see a visible presence at places of worship throughout our county. Law enforcement is banding together to make sure that there is a feeling of being safe.
Oh my gosh. What's up, Pumper? Good morning.
At every place of worship.
See, the way that he's saying this, though, is so, like, theatric. Like, I don't feel the genuineness from what he's saying. And that's why I don't like it. Just is what it is. Yes, let's get the likes up, everybody.
I talked yesterday about the heroic actions of a security guard at the Islamic Center. I had no idea how heroic those actions were. The individuals that...
What's up, Tiffany? Good morning. This is the same guy from yesterday, by the way. The guy that can't speak. Like, it's so monotonous that it's hard. It's actually hard to listen to. Let's see. I mean, let's get this guy up here.
Excuse me if I get a little bit emotional.
Oh, boy.
We call them our brothers in the community. We call them our martyrs and our heroes. Our security guard, Amin Abdullah, he goes by Amin Abdullah. Brian Climax, such a lovely person. He never stopped smiling.
And you know what's funny about it, VC? Is it's already sped up. I have it sped up, and he was still that slow, dude.
Anyone, our community members, as well as our visitors.
Chatting with Stacks. Good morning.
If it was not for him, as Chief mentioned, the carnage would be much worse. He's the one who stopped them, who slowed them down. If he didn't do what he did, and he sacrificed his life, the two suspects would have easily access to every single classroom. We're so proud of him. I envy him when I see messages about him literally from all over the world talking about his heroism. This is our brother. Second one, Mansour Kaziha, our elder.
Okay, this is cool and all, but let's just go ahead and get into the actual victims. Like, I mean, of course, yes, the story is important and all, but let's go ahead and get to the facts here. There they are right there.
Let me say that the collaborative response and approach to yesterday's event has been overwhelming. I know that we've had support from the U.S. Attorney's Office, from the Federal Bureau of Investigation.
What's up, Frank? Good morning.
From the San Diego County District Attorney's Office, from every law enforcement agency here in San Diego County.
All right, real quick, let's see if they pull up another one of these screens here, because this guy is almost impossible to listen to. I'm going to be real. I can't believe they held this meeting for 37 minutes, 35, 36 minutes. Wow. Listening to that is rough. We're going to move on. Just, it is what it is. We tried yesterday as well with that guy, and it's nothing personal against the guy, but the truth is he's almost impossible to listen to. All right, Kentucky primary. We're going to move on into some primary action about yesterday. Thomas Massie falls to Trump-backed Ed. So let's go ahead. And I forget how to pronounce his last name. But one thing I did want to show real quick that I thought that was very interesting. I saw this morning before we started the show. This right here says Republican primary for Kentucky's 4th congressional district poll. For Thomas Massie is red, and then the blue is for Ed. It says seniors 65 plus were only voting demographic to favor Trump-backed opponent over Massie in Kentucky primary. Look at that. Look at that. Wow. So the boomer generation and above, well, yeah, the boomers, made that decision for Kentucky, Anyways, that's something that is the same thing here, right? It's going to be the same thing in a lot of different demographics. And unfortunately, not I think we all know how boomers are, and when they get confronted with facts, they've believed something for so long and they've been brainwashed for so long. Unfortunately, they get, they believe the bullshit, and it is what it is, right? Anyways, let's go ahead and bring this up and we'll go ahead and discuss it.
Another Trump-backed candidate, the big one, the one that Trump wanted the most, Ed Gallrein, taking down Thomas Massie in this 4th congressional district primary in Kentucky, as you can see here from.
Oh, wow. Real quick, we got Sterling Wheel coming in and gifting out 5 memberships. Let's go. Thank you very much, kind sir. Helping not only me, but 5 others in the IWF. My man, thank you for making it rain in the chat. Definitely goes a long way, brother. Great to see you this morning.
Race calls. Ed Gallrein wins a Republican nomination for the U.S. House in the 4th district, beating the incumbent Thomas Massie. It was a litany of names that he called Thomas Massie over the last several weeks, as Massie against the One Big Beautiful Bill, an advocate for the release of some of these Epstein files. So we'll see that here on Live Now from Fox. As you see right now, the big check mark next to Ed Gallrein, Thomas Massie losing this bid that he is not.
You talking about my race? Yes. So basically, we were the challenger of the same party. So if we would have won last night, we would have won all the way to November, right? Because we wouldn't have had to go up against a Democrat, for instance. So there was no Democrats in our race. Anyways, back to this.
Coming up short for an 8th term in office. And we'll keep an eye at President Trump having comments about that, because that is the one that he wanted the most in all of this. All right, let's get some instant reaction here on Live Now from Fox on what we are learning with this race and how consequential it is, how big it is. We're going to be joined right now, Ryan Schmelz. Ryan.
Yeah, what was it, Steve Easy? A $20 or $30 million campaign that, basically Israel paid for.
Obviously, we talk about Andy Barr, the Republican in Kentucky, now Ed Gallrein. What do we make of this decision, this poll closing for Ed Gallrein over Thomas Massie?
I mean, it's quite fascinating. This was a person in Thomas Massie who's faced primary challengers, Trump-backed primary challengers before. He won by substantial margins every single time. Every time Massie's been primary, he won by a lot. That is not the case tonight. Tonight, President Trump has been successful. Granted, this is the most aggressive attempt President Trump has made to go after Thomas Massie.
What's up, Sage?
And it's not just President Trump. This, in many ways, is very similar to what happened to Bob Good, who is the former chairman of the House Freedom Caucus, who lost his primary to John McGuire
What's up, Prez, as well? Good morning to you.
election cycle in Virginia. Bob Good was one of the people who voted to remove Kevin McCarthy.
Yes, correct. All the states that we were talking about yesterday was all primaries. Yes. And Steve Easy says 20 million, over 20 million.
As Speaker of the House. Well, Thomas Massie took a pretty aggressive stance in trying to remove Speaker Johnson, including refusing to support him on the floor during this last speaker vote when Johnson was pretty much reelected as Speaker of the House. So Massie didn't just ruffle feathers with President Trump. He ruffled feathers with GOP leadership up and down the ranks. So this was in many ways a full-on, backing behind Ed Gallrein, not just from President Trump, but also some other members of the GOP too. And what we're going to want to watch for now is what's going to happen to some of the GOP members who have backed Massie and defended Thomas Massie, like Lauren Boebert. Boebert got a pretty scathing Truth Social post about her over the weekend, and she did respond to it, said that she still is supporting President Trump. But is she somebody down the road who we have to watch for, who could face a primary challenger for going against one of President Trump's candidates, which was Ed Gallrein. In this case, she decided to back Thomas Massie. But, this is a successful night for President Trump. He backed Andy Barr, who won in the Kentucky Senate race, despite the fact that President Trump did.
Yeah, a lot of Trump-backed candidates were elected.
Like Daniel Cameron, he just felt that Andy Barr had the better chance of holding that seat and then going and getting Thomas Massie out of office, essentially, is what we're learning right now. So that's a 2 for 2 for President Trump in Kentucky. And the other race we're watching for, Georgia, well, that's one that President Trump has stayed out of. So there might be something interesting to watch there. We can get to that in just a second.
Yeah, that is so very true. Watching President Trump to see if he has any instant reaction, because that would be must-see TV to see if President Trump has anything to say about Ed Gallrein taking down Thomas Massie the thorn in his side. And we talk about in the most recent presidential election, 2024, a mandate. He won all 7 swing states. How influential, more influential after this could be that endorsement from the president?
Now, real quick, before he answers that, Steve Easy, I did not know that there's any type of funding for any of that Transformer stuff.
It appears that it's still very influential and has a major impact on how things go. And we're going to see that very soon next week when voters go to the polls in Texas and decide if they're going to have John Cornyn or Ken Paxton, the Attorney General, as the nominee in Texas. And Ken Paxton is fresh off getting the endorsement today from President Trump. And I think there is a major concern among Senate Republicans. Most of them, if not all of them, were either staying neutral or backing Cornyn full on. Tim Scott, who's in charge of campaigns for Senate Republicans, was backing Ken Paxton. John Thune was backing, he was backing John Cornyn. John Thune, the majority leader, was backing John Cornyn as well. So all of them are kind of at odds with President Trump when it came to Ken Paxton. And Trump has made it pretty clear, the president has made it clear that he does like John Cornyn, but as he put it in his Truth Social.
I'm disappointed that this guy that is talking on this whole subject hasn't talked about the AIPAC lobby or talking about PACs and the Israel funds that he received, his opponent who won
today,
the challenger.
He didn't feel like Cornyn was loyal to him when he was at his lowest points. So that ultimately got Ken Paxton over the edge and got the edge for President Trump. But in many ways, I think what we need to see is how some of these candidates do at the ballot box in November in the general election. Andy Barr's got a pretty clear path to being the next senator from Kentucky, but there's always been this thought that Ken Paxton's going to be less electable on a general election stage, and Democrats will have a better chance of winning Texas if James Tallarico is going up against Ken Paxton as opposed to John Cornyn. So we have to see how that shakes out.
Yeah, lots.
Interesting. All right, so we're going to be following all of these, of course, as we always do. Now let's go and hear from Trump last night after figuring out who won and all of that stuff. So Trump obviously comes out and speaks. He's at the congressional picnic, and so he's going to be speaking to lawmakers during the White House congressional picnic. Here we go. So I just fast forwarded on this because, Melania was speaking, and we really don't need to hear that.
What a great job. I have to follow that. I hate it. I never like following our great First Lady because
Yeah, he's out here capping.
Stop the cap.
But it's all good. It's all good. He loves his wife.
It makes me look not so good. I want to thank all of you for being here. It's amazing, actually. And thank you, Melania. We're truly blessed to have such a first lady. She's been so popular. She did a movie, it became #1. She then went to streaming, it became #1. And
Let me speed
I
him
say
up.
there's only room, remember this, for 1 star in a family. So I better get rid of that. That's not so good. But she's been amazing, and people love her, as you can see by.
You know what's funny about that, Cameron? Is oftentimes rich people are that way. So, little funny side note about this. So when my dad, when I was young, my dad used to work for a guy. He ran his boats, and this guy was a personal friend of my dad, and the guy was a billionaire. Had like $1.3 billion, a lot of money. Anyways, he had 2 mansions side by side on Lido Island, which is over in Newport Beach, in California. Anyways, 2 mega mansions side by side, like $20 million each, easy. One for him and one for his fucking wife, because they like 2 different styles of houses. So they bought them side by side, 2 separate properties, and then built on the 2nd story or the 3rd story a bridge that meets. And so they eat dinner together every night or whatever. And then they go back to their houses. It's fucking crazy, bro.
The results, and that was a big thing today. Congratulations on that vote. She had a bipartisan vote. I should use you for some of the things I want to try and pass. But I join Melania in congratulating the House of Representatives on passing the Fostering the Future Act, which is a big deal, and this afternoon to modernize foster care, an issue close to the First Lady's heart, and hopefully it will quickly pass in the Senate. I'm sure it will. It's great. It's a great thing. And I want to thank everybody. We have a lot of senators. We have a lot of Congress people. And I want to thank you all. I'm thrilled to welcome you all to the White House this evening for a very special annual tradition, the Congressional Picnic. It's been going on for many years. And we're joined by many of the members of the House and Cabinet, Senate. And I just want to say a special hello to the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson. He's going to go down as one of the great speakers. We've done a lot together. We've done a lot. Where are you, Mike? Where are you, Mike? Hi, Mike. There he is. He's a great guy, actually, and he's worked so hard. I want to thank also John Thune, who's worked so hard.
Stop thanking people
for the unbelievable job. And while there are too many members in the House and Senate, I see half of you right here, and I'd like to introduce everyone, but I want to let people enjoy themselves tonight. So, but we have so many representatives.
What is that supposed to mean? That's hilarious. Just fucking spit it out.
This evening, it will be something very special to remember that all of us here tonight continue.
Yeah, no kidding, Hardwire. Listen, they had so much money that these motherfuckers didn't know what to do with. I mean, and believe it or not, he was very charitable. Gave a lot of money to charity. I mean, hundreds of millions of dollars into charity. Hundreds of millions. It's actually kind of incredible. But yes, anyways, I digress. Good morning to you. Great to see you.
Priceless tradition. This really is a great tradition. We represent the oldest and most extraordinary constitutional republic on the face of the earth, and a special privilege and a unique responsibility it is. It's really something very special. I'm standing here and I'm looking at a great American flag, and it's hard to believe.
What's up, Kerry? Good morning. Great to see you in the chat, bro.
I put that in 2 months ago, and I put one on the other side. You know, this is actually, in theory, this would be, I consider them both, we have 2 fronts. I've never figured out, nobody else has either, since if you think about it, 1792, nobody's figured out which is the front and which is the back of the White House. So when I'm speaking here, I say the front, and when I speak over there, I say the front. It actually has 2 fronts, and I put 2 flags up, and it's a great pole, and it's a beautiful flag, and it's amazing that it wasn't up before. We have another flag, slightly smaller, on the top of the White House, but it's a little bit on the smaller side. But everybody loves that pole. It's a beauty, and it represents so much. And I want to thank the company that put it up. The best, I think they make the best. It's hard to believe. I have so many different developments all over the world. I always like putting the flag up, and I know a lot about flagpoles, and that's the best flagpole there is. Okay, so congratulations. We have 2 of them. We got.
Cool. All right, let's get to the speech.
A few moments later.
Actually 2 for the price of 1. We negotiated a tough deal.
Oh, my goodness.
Finally, we have a really representative flagpole and flag up in front of our White House, so that's good. I also want to recognize the incredible congressional spouses, families, and children.
Provo, that is epic. It's a great poll, the best flag. Good morning, kind sir. Good morning. Great to see you in the chat,
Who
bro.
make enormous sacrifices so that their loved ones can serve, so that their loved ones can get beat up by the fake news, so that their loved ones can also beat up the enemy. And they do that. They do.
By the
They're
way,
warriors.
Joey, yes, it is on 1.25, by the way. 1.25 playback. I do that for not just for Trump. I do that for everybody. We try to condense everything into about a single hour. So
Easy, and I want to give them, the spouses, a very special hand today. Thank you. Thank you, darling. Thank you very much. Thank you. You put up with a lot. It's not easy. But on the eve of the 250th year, there's so much for our country to celebrate regarding
hey, always appreciate you, Moto. Hopefully you're also enjoying the morning, and be safe out there on the road. I know you're probably riding.
really the party. We have a party that's really at a point that I don't think we've ever been at. And America's thriving, America's winning, and America's respected, perhaps like it has never been respected before. If you go back 2 years, we were not respected. We were a dead country. I'll tell you what, we were a dead country. And today we're the hottest country anywhere in the world. There's nobody even close. And the day, I don't know if you saw the numbers today, but the stock market's at an all-time high. We had
What's up, Miss Lotus? Good morning to you. Great to see you in the chat as
67
well.
all-time highs. So we've been here for a little bit more than a year now, and we had 67 all-time.
I do have to admit the stock market is doing well, and people that are in the stock market, if you invested in certain things, you're probably doing pretty good right now. Just look at the top heavy part of the stock market that's carrying the stock market, and that's where a lot of the money is.
Time highs, and I want to say that in our first term, we finished the term out despite COVID and all the other things. We had really an amazing period of time, and we finished at the highest point in the history of the stock market.
Oh, Mimi.
And now we're blown it.
So I got off on a little tangent because we were talking about rich people or whatever, and I spoke about my dad's really good friend who has, unfortunately, he's no longer on this planet, but he was a billionaire. He sold his company called TCW, Trust Company of the West, and sold it to Bank of America for $1.3 billion. Anyways, so I had a crazy story about that, but anyways, then people were like, well, that's a lot of money for him to buy houses that were side by side. I told the whole story. And then, someone said, well, I would find more creative things to do with that money. And I said, well, actually, he donated hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. So
We're
there you
blowing
go.
everything away, and we're going to end that war very quickly. They want to make a deal so badly. They're tired of this. This should have happened for 47 years. Somebody should have done something about it, and it's going to happen, and it's going to happen fast. And you're going to see oil prices plummet. They're going to come down. There's so much oil out there. They're going to come plummeting down. But even with that, the stock market's at an all-time high. Jobless claims recently hit the lowest level since 1969, the best numbers since 1969, and more Americans are working today than at any time in the history of our country. Think of that. And we have a war. We have something happening that we just hit. It's very interesting. 2.5 months ago, we hit the best numbers that we've ever hit as a country. Jobs, the best. Everything was the best. Stock market, the highest. And I called my people in. I called them in. I said, congratulations, everybody, but we're going to have to make a little journey down to a place called Iran. We have to stop them. They have nuclear on their mind, and we're not going to let them have a nuclear weapon. And we've done a hell of a job, and I think we're going to be finished with that very quickly, and they won't have a nuclear weapon, and hopefully we're going to get it done in a very nice manner. Factory construction, as you heard today, also is up. Housing starts are up, and consumer spending is up. All things that we have an economy. People aren't seeing it yet.
You be safe out there, VC. We always appreciate you, brother.
Inherited when we started. We had the highest inflation in the history of our country, and we actually had, just before the war, before the energy forced other things up, but up or down, we had the best numbers. We had inflation was at 1.6% for the last 3 months just prior to the war, and now you're going to see numbers like that again. We inherited high prices, and we got the
that is a good song title, Cameron. Damn,
prices down. And we got them down to numbers that in some cases people have not seen before. But think of it, inflation at 1.6%. Manufacturing right now is booming. American companies are purchasing core capital goods at the highest amounts ever in the history of our country. Our previously wide open border is now the most secure border in the history of the United States of America. And remember, we inherited a mess. And last year, we had the largest drop in murder rate ever recorded to the lowest level in 125 years. That's the year 1900. Think of that. And working alongside many of you, and you are unbelievable, the senators, the cabinet members. We have such a great cabinet, and all of the congressmen and women. You're the most incredible people, but working alongside of many of you here, we passed that very important. And again, remember, I went to John and I went to Mike. I went to a lot of the senators and congressmen and women, and I said, we can try and do this at one time, get 4 years worth. That's why we call it the Great Big Beautiful Bill. We can do it at one time, give it a shot, but everybody says it's impossible to get approved. Well, we got 4 years worth of goodies approved in a period of time, and at a period of time that they said would be impossible. And we're lucky we did. And it's gotten a little bit harder as time goes by. In fact, the only one that gets things approved now are Melania and her friends. She gets them approved bipartisan. I'm going to talk to her later. I'm going to say, what are you doing? But it's great. It's great stuff. But what we did do is we got something done, and we're getting a lot approved. We're getting a lot. You're going to be seeing that too. You've been watching it. Amazing. With really small majorities, we've gotten record-setting numbers approved. And when you add no tax on tips and no tax on Social Security, all of the things.
No tax on overtime. Listen, you know, there's no tax on tips. Send in your donos. Shit. Hey, listen, real quick. We need to embrace our fuck-ups, yo.
Don't beat yourself up over past mistakes. You are going to fuck up again in the future, quite possibly in a most spectacular fashion. Why worry about yesterday's fuck-ups when you have tomorrow's fuck-ups to look forward to? You are a fuck-up, and fucking up is part of your growth process. Embrace the process.
You must and shall always embrace the process. And meanwhile, I'm snacking on this big-ass sandwich.
Man, motherfucker talk all the shit they want. But you see me, I'm sitting up here snacking on this big-ass sandwich, not getting a fuck. Kiss my dick, motherfucker.
Shit. All right, back to the action.
Think of this. No tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security for our great seniors. And that's just the start. A deduction. You buy a car and you get a deduction for the first time on the interest you're paying on your loan. If you're borrowing money, you take out a loan, you get a deduction. It's never happened before. We have so many different things. One other thing I have to say, because it's affected so many people, estate taxes or the death tax. You love your children. You want to pass on your estate to your children. Well, in the old days, meaning not so long ago, your children would have to go out and borrow tremendous amounts of money to go and take care of the.
You know, PJ, I would assume not. I would assume that is tips. I would assume that they wouldn't have to pay any of that, theoretically, right? But they get their shit in cash. So, I mean, if they're reporting what they make cash, they're fucking dumb.
Bruh.
Farm or the small business, whatever it may be, but it especially affected those in small business, but more than anything, farmers. And they'd go out. The children would go out, borrow money from their bank, wouldn't be able to pay it back. A bad thing.
Oh, Miss Lotus, I totally understand that. I get it. Totally. Well, that might be me, you know, tomorrow morning, to be honest, because I'm gonna party a little bit. You know, I'm gonna have me a few cocktails. You know what I mean? Right after the Diamond Effect. Well, actually, at the start of the Diamond Effect, that's when I have my first drink. So
things happened to them. Many of them couldn't handle life, actually. And we got it.
Christopher Collins, good morning.
Estate tax. There's no death tax on your farm, on your small business. Nobody thought that was possible. So if you love your children, you can leave your business to your children. You can leave your farm to your children, and they'll be very happy. Now, if you don't love your children, don't bother. Then it doesn't matter. What I'm saying is just a big waste of time. But if you love, think of it. You have no death tax. You have no estate tax. You can leave it to your children, and we love that. It was so important to me. We've restored the American strength on the world stage. We're respected all over the world.
What's up, Texas Gidget? Good morning to you. Happy Hump Day. We call, you know, Titty Wednesday or whatever.
You might have seen, I was in China a few days ago with President-Xi, and it was some display. We had a great time, but we also got a lot of business, a lot of great business for our farmers with soybeans, record purchases of soybeans and lots of other things. And they're buying many, many Boeing airplanes, and they're buying a lot of other things too. We had a great relationship. I've always had a great relationship with President-Xi. Together, on a bipartisan basis, we passed the Laken Riley Act to get dangerous criminal aliens off our streets. We love Laken. We passed the Genius Act to keep America at the forefront of finance and new technology, and working with Melania and the group, Congress passed the Take It Down Act to protect our nation's children. So that was something. And everyone here tonight has a lot to look forward to, so that in the coming months, we're going to have some very amazing events. One of them is going to be right there where you're standing. It's the hardest ticket I have never seen anybody want anything so much as people want those tickets. It's a one-of-a-kind UFC. That's going to be something, UFC event on the South Lawn. Right there, we're going to build an arena. It's going to hold probably, I would say, 4,000 5,000. The great Dana White is putting it on. You know, we'll get it up to the.
See, Cameron, Steve looks at it the same way that I do. Never take anything personal from anyone you are not personal with, period. You know what I mean? Anything else is just like, whatever. Who gives a shit what the fuck you think? You know what I mean?
And behind you in the park, the beautiful open piece of land, we're going to have anywhere from 75,000 to 100,000 people, all free of charge. We're building 8 giant screens back there. So we have a small arena here that we're building, never happened before. And in the back, we're going to have close to 100,000 people watching the fight. They're going to be all championship fights. It's going to be great. We also have, as you know, the Indy. Roger Penske is doing the Indy around the Capitol, and that'll be in August. That's going to be unbelievable. They've been trying to, he said he's been trying to do that for 25 years. He's made 129 trips to Washington. He was never able to do it. Then he met me. One trip took a half an hour, and we got it done. And it's going to be fantastic. And we have then, of course, FIFA, Johnny. Good old Johnny. He's great. He's doing a fantastic job. Johnny Infantino. We have the FIFA World Cup and our Great American State Fair on the National Mall, and the Freedom 250 Grand Prix here. And then on July 4th, we have an unbelievable display. And
don't worry, he's almost done.
Don't forget, we have a thing called the Olympics coming up. I got the Olympics during my first term, and then I got FIFA during my first term. And I said, I won't be able to see it because it happened now. But then strange things happened with an election, and I didn't get to serve the 4 years that I was supposed to serve. I don't want to say it. I don't want to be controversial.
I don't want to say
the
it.
The election was rigged. And we can't.
I don't want to be. I don't want to say it. I don't want to be controversial. And then it was rigged. I mean, you're always controversial, motherfucker. That's what you live off of that.
And I didn't get to serve the 4 years that I was supposed to serve. I don't want to say it. I don't want to be controversial. The election was rigged. And we came back and we did something very special. And I ended up getting the Olympics and getting FIFA. And we got 252. I want to take credit for 250 years, but that I'm not going to get away with. But we're going to have an amazing period of time. So we have exciting things happening. I just want to leave by saying.
Here, I got you, Steve Easy.
Why are you gay? You are gay.
Our country is so strong. Our military is the greatest in the world. You saw that with Venezuela. You see it now with Iran. We wiped out their Navy. The Navy is gone. The Air Force is gone. Their anti-aircraft is gone. All of their material that they use for warfare is gone. Just about everything is gone. I don't want to say their leaders are gone because it's not very nice, but that happens to be true. And they're not going to have a nuclear weapon. They cannot have a nuclear weapon. We won't be able to put up with that. And we
won't be able to move off of it.
Not going to put up with it. And just to say one final thing, in the history of the world, there's never been anything like happened over the last short period of time. 18 trillion with a T dollars is being invested in the United States. There's never been anything close. As an example, the previous administration in 4 years, had substantially less than $1 trillion. We have $18 trillion in 11 months. We haven't gotten the results from the last month, from the 12th month. But think of that, 18 trillion. In the history of the world, there's been no country with anywhere even close to that number. And all of that money is going to building factories. And I mean car plants, auto plants, everything is coming back, AI plants. We have everything coming back. We've never had a situation like it. We're building plants, thousands of plants all over our country, $18 trillion. It's many times greater than another country, a certain other country that I just visited. If you go, I won't mention names, if you go back 10 years, that had the record at 3 trillion. We're at 18 trillion. There's never been anything like that in history. So I just want to thank you all. You're spectacular people, the political people out there. I love you all. And we're going to have one hell of a time for the next.
All right, let's go ahead and move on. So let's get the remarks from the winner that ran against Thomas Massie. Let's go ahead and see his remarks last night.
Ed Gallrein.
And I have not seen them yet.
His victory speech starting now in Kentucky. Let's listen.
Now and then the left will make its stand.
Why is it lagging? Or
bring its craziness to our border.
Oh, they're showing something else. I see. Here we go.
Thank you, folks. I just have a few remarks. Can you hear me okay?
Why do you mute it? Here we go.
They're good, and I speak fluent Kentuckian. But I start with God is good. Amen. Now, some folks, I want you to bear with me. It might
Man, they have terrible audio on this.
not make sense to all of you, but it's a long way from a family dairy farm on the river bottoms here in Kentucky to standing in front of you here tonight as the Republican nominee for Kentucky Congressional District 4. The winner of the race tonight is not so much Ed Gallrein. I'll come back to that. But it's the Republicans of Kentucky Congressional District 4 and their families who I will be a champion for in Washington. They're the winners. I want to thank a few folks, and bear with me, I'll keep this short. I want to thank President Trump for his support, his endorsement, and his counsel as I navigated this campaign, which is a journey of unto itself, and for his courageous leadership of our nation at this critical time. I want to emphasize that, this critical time in
What's up, Gary? Good morning to you. Great to see you in the chat.
In history. Thank you, Mr. President. I want to thank my family that have endured this campaign in many ways that have been so unfair to them. I want to thank my team back here, and this is some of them here. Round of applause. Now, we got a saying on the farm that family farm is a contact sport. I can tell you that campaigning is one as well, isn't it, folks? A lot of talent back here. I want another round of applause for my team. Not only the ones in here, but I see them out there as well. Thank y'all. Thank y'all for what you've done, and thank you for what you do. Can I take a minute and also thank my teachers, all the way back to Miss Harden at St. Paul, Sister Mary Dorothea, Sister Mary Fulgence, Coach Walt Heath from Franklin Simpson just sent me a note, and I could go on, but the kind of people that shaped me into the young man I was and never realized till so many years later, you know, what they've done, including my FFA teacher, Mr. Hammers, World War II veteran sniper, wonderful man, humble as the day is long. I want to thank my teammates from FFA, that's Future Farmers of America, for you out-of-towner folks. That's a big deal in Kentucky, okay? FFA. To football, to SEAL team, and the Joint Special Operations team that I've served on all over the world. Thank them, for they made me the better person that I am. And the more I was promoted, the more awards I got, the more humble I came. Now my focus is on advancing the president's and the party's agenda to put America first and Kentucky always. I want to keep this simple because, again, I speak fluent Kentuckian. Because for the same reasons I joined in 1983 to serve our nation. Remember, I didn't join to be a Navy SEAL. I joined to make a difference. And being a Navy SEAL was the path to do that. Weren't no books or movies, never met one. I learned to swim in the Ohio River. That's ill-advised, but that's what I did on the farm. Would have got a whooping had I found out at the house or I did that. But for the same reason I entered as a Navy SEAL officer in 1983, because I had the audacity to think I could make a difference. And I did. I will serve this district, my party, and my nation with that same audacity to make a difference for them, their families, our district, our party, and our nation. God bless America. Thank y'all. Thank y'all for coming.
All right.
Thank y'all.
All right, there we go. Let's go and move on. Putin visits Xi days after Trump's high-stakes trip to Beijing. It states here, we are getting the latest updates as Russian President Vladimir Putin arrived this week in China for meetings with Xi. Putin's meetings with the Chinese leader come less than a week after President Donald Trump made his own high-stakes visit to Beijing. So let's go ahead and bring this up, and we'll quickly get into it. Oh, you know what we haven't done yet? We haven't done the money part either. Let's go ahead and do that part real quick.
All right, just get the money part done.
Give me money. Money me. Money now. Me a money needing a lot now.
Now that's actual factuals.
Denied.
All right, here we go.
All right, welcome back in Alive Now. I'm Austin Westfall. Take a look. Tonight, Russian President Vladimir Putin arrived.
By the way, let's get the likes up, everybody. Double tap that screen if you guys are on the vertical side. I very much appreciate it. It goes a long way, and it's free to do so. Listen, you don't have to love all the craziness that's happening around the world or in this nation, but you guys can like it for me and what Insane Wheels stands for and what we do here.
In China for meetings with Chinese leader Xi Jinping less than a week after President Trump wrapped up his own trip to Beijing. Putin's plane landed in Beijing, where he was greeted by Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi and an honor guard as well. The Kremlin says Putin and Xi plan to discuss economic cooperation between the two countries and key international and regional issues. Some video and photos as Putin arrived in Beijing earlier today. Let's bring in retired Marine Intelligence Officer, National Security Analyst, and the host of the Strap Podcast, Hal Kempfer. He's here with me to discuss. Hal, are Russia's recent economic troubles causing them to be more dependent on China as of late?
Austin, absolutely. Russia's got enormous problems. They have by many measures, they have a declining economy right now. It's actually shrinking. I've always felt it was shrinking before, but they were basically playing with the numbers to make it look like the economy was actually
Hey, welcome back, VC. Hell yeah.
Actually growing, but they can't even hide it anymore. Everyone knows it's going very.
What's up, Roger, as well? Shit, we got some legends.
Very poorly. They just got their sanctions relief by the U.S. lifted for another 30 days, but the Ukrainians turned around and hit a bunch of oil facilities, refineries, and storage areas. So even though they have this reprieve from selling oil, they also are unable to move that oil because of all the damage caused by Ukraine, and their forces aren't moving on the field of battle. And although it's been kind of walked back a little bit, the story was this morning that that Xi had actually told Putin that Xi had actually told President Trump that Putin would regret having invaded Ukraine. Now, when this became public, everybody walked it back and said, "Oh no, that never was said." But I'm pretty sure it was said. So yes, Putin is in bad shape.
A live look at the White House. The time in the nation's capital just past.
Now, the one thing I do gotta say, obviously, I've been watching how Ken Fern is reporting on whether it be Russia, Ukraine, whether it be the Middle East, whatever, for years now. And that motherfucker is not biased to any side. He just calls it exactly like he sees it. And I really do appreciate that shit. And he has insights that none of us have on a governmental level. But anyways, his intel is insane.
9:30. What does Putin want from this trip, Hal? I was reading that he wants another pipeline so that Russia can export more energy to China. Another Power of Siberia pipeline, I believe it's called.
Yeah, it's a pipeline that would actually run across Siberia. I mean, for geography, if you look across, okay, there you see it right there. You see the pipeline that runs across, goes through Mongolia. And the idea was that they could export oil directly in, that they would not be so dependent on shipping. Now, that shipping of oil.
Right. Pipelines is, I mean, trust me, like we were just talking about this whole Strait of Hormuz thing, and they're talking about now, you know, the Gulf states are talking about, well, not just talking, they're actually working on that, a massive pipeline that goes through the region. It's incredible. And it starts in Saudi Arabia and it goes through and it goes all the way through, like even through, it actually looks like it goes through right through Gaza, actually.
Oil goes a couple different directions. It can go obviously through the Suez Canal and come over that way. However, during about 4 or 5 months a year, depending on which route they use, they can actually run it up and around the Arctic and bring it in, which is kind of a newer thing. And so that's another way. But he wants to kind of get rid of that altogether and bring pipelines. Pipelines are far more efficient, far less expensive to move oil, and wants to do that. But what he needs is basically China to foot the bill, because Russia just doesn't have the resources, the wherewithal, the capability to do this. So I'm not saying he's going in there completely hand in hand, but he is going to be leaning on China. And this is a time where China, too, is having serious economic issues and having to curtail some of the things it's been investing in. So you have two leaders trying to show themselves on the world stage. Putin really trying to overcome the problems back home by showing himself in a global setting. But yeah, it's something they want to do. But I will say this, as somebody who used to command a large unit that did bulk fuel, that you don't build those pipelines quickly. It takes time.
Let me ask you guys a question, and he's right about that. But I have a whole different side question. Do you guys think I should get something like this, like a background, something like this on a global, like, show something like a global thing behind me? I think that I can end up getting something printed and put it up behind me on one of those prop where you pull it up or whatever. Let me know what you guys think about that. I've been thinking about doing like something like that that looks a little bit more professional. Yes, I love being raw the way that I am, and whatever. But the truth is I think that does look good. And you guys let me know.
That did bulk fuel, that you don't build those pipelines quickly. It takes time.
Can China maintain a close relationship with the Russians while also maintaining a stable relationship with the White House?
It can. And it looked, some were saying, is Putin trolling President Trump?
No, you'd still see Lucy. She would hop in frame still. But you just wouldn't be able to see her run across my bed and run across the couch and stuff like that when she does. But it's pretty rare that happens on stream, because she's like, hey, dad's being too loud. I'm going to go under I'm going to go under the bed and fall asleep. But yeah, anyways. Appreciate your guys' input.
Was there. This trip was actually planned for quite some time. You may recall that President Trump had to actually postpone his original trip to this later date simply because the war in Iran.
Yeah, what's up, Adam? Shit, it's been a minute. Great to see you, bro. And yes, she is always the background.
And everything that was going on there. So it was largely coincidental that Putin came in right afterwards, although this gives him the last say. And he wants to solidify that base. He needs that language that talks about, this friendship that knows no bounds sort of relationship he has with China. Of course, the big fear would be that China's looking at a declining Russia, a declining political position of Putin personally, and trying to hedge its bets by working more closely with President Trump in the United States. And actually that whole alliance between Russia and China is literally an offset to the United States. They just see themselves as this two great powers. And well, I'm sure Putin thinks he's a great power, but China sees itself as a great power.
As the real great power over than Russia.
That
right.
are working together to limit the aspirations of U.S. power worldwide. However, interesting phrase was used today, multipolar world. Now, that's not the first time we've heard that. That was a big phrase that took place back in the 90s, and it kind of lost meaning in this.
What's up, Rebecca? Good morning to you. Great to see you all the way from Canada. Great to see you.
Last decade, but the multipolar, which is another way, which is kind of a code for saying they're seeing declining American influence in the world. They're seeing rising influence with other epicenters, like with the European Union and maybe some of the other Asian powers. I found that language to be very interesting, very telling, certainly of Xi's worldview as to where he thinks things are going.
This is Putin's.
All right, so let's go ahead and move on from this. We got enough of the information out of that. Let's go ahead and bring our attention over to the Ebola outbreak over there in the Congo. And they're not really reporting from this, at least, where they're saying it's coming from the Congo and Uganda, because there's an outbreak happening in both. But they do have the numbers, the official numbers. Let me go ahead and read this to you guys real quick. There have been more than 500 cases and at least 134 deaths due to the Ebola outbreak in Congo. And this is the recent outbreak that just happened. This comes as the United Nations is shipping medical supplies to help fight the outbreak. Common symptoms include fever, headache, muscle pain, vomiting, diarrhea, and weakness. Of course, we know that. All right, let's go ahead and bring this up, and we'll quickly get into it. The numbers have grown a lot since we last spoke about this just yesterday and the day before that. So
back into live now from Fox. You're taking a live look there over in Kenya as the World Health Organization is working to bring supplies over to East Congo to help fight the Ebola virus outbreak there. And we just want to get a better idea of the Ebola virus and the caution that it is bringing people, especially in those areas there. And this is where we want to bring in our medical expert, Dr. Matthew Harris, onto the program. Dr. Harris, thank you so much for coming on the program this morning. We really appreciate it. So we've heard of Ebola virus outbreaks before. Is there anything different about this outbreak, or is there a difference with the strain here that we're seeing? What can you tell us?
Yeah, thanks. Good morning, and thanks so much for having me. This is a little bit different than prior outbreaks, though I want to caution that the risk to the general public in the United States is low, but the opportunity for the U.S. and other international players to help mitigate the situation in Africa is very much there. So the Bundabuyo variant of this.
Now, this guy speaks a little quick, so let's go ahead and bring this down a little bit.
Ebola virus had an outbreak last time around 10 years ago. It looks very similar to other variants of Ebola with a sort of general fever and malaise, and can progress around 40 to 50% of the time to that classic hemorrhagic fever with lots of bleeding from different parts of the body. And the mortality rate.
Okay, so let me go ahead and show you guys what I'm looking at here. And this is what I looked up yesterday. Remember, we looked up how many variants that there are, how many strains of Ebola there are. So let me go ahead and I'm screenshotting this now, and I'm going to upload it to the stream right now, and I'll show you guys what I'm talking about, because we actually know what the actual strain is of this. He just said it right there, and it just made me think. Let me go ahead and show you guys what it is.
It is very, very high. What's different about this is that we're a little late to the game finding out about this, right? And that's because it's taking place in an area of conflict. There's limited resources for testing. And as of this morning, we know there are at least 33 confirmed cases, 536 suspected cases, and over 135 deaths. So this is a real moment of concern, but really about how we can motivate the world and show up in a meaningful way to help mitigate the problem, really in Congo.
Let me show you guys the strain that it is. Okay, so when we looked it up yesterday, AI gave us this. There are 6 known species or strains of Ebola virus in the genus Ebola virus. 4 are known to cause disease in humans. Now, the Zaire Ebola virus is the deadliest and most common cause of major outbreaks, but that's not the one. Now, we didn't know yesterday, so we were literally going, well, maybe that's the one that happened, but it's actually number 3. I don't know how you pronounce that correctly. Bundigo Ebola virus. That's the strain. And what he just said, the medical expert that just said that the last time that kind of strain went on an outbreak was over 10 years ago. So I just thought that was interesting, and I wanted to at least let you guys know what strain it is. And
in Uganda.
Anyways.
And when you're talking about showing up to help mitigate it, we do have that live image there that we're just showing moments ago. And you can see that these boxes are labeled World Health Organization. They got supplies heading there on this plane, heading over to East Congo. Could you tell us maybe what could possibly be inside these boxes and the supplies that could help mitigate the spread of the Ebola virus?
Yes, you know what we know about Ebola in general, and in particular.
Yes, by the way, real quick, make sure you guys hit that like button, double tap that screen on the vertical side. Let's get the likes up, man. I very much appreciate that.
With this virus is they call it the caregiver's disease, right? Because the people who are at highest risk for contracting Ebola are healthcare workers and family members who participate either in the medical care of these patients or, unfortunately, very often in their burial rites. So a lot of this, I imagine, is personal protective equipment, right, to limit the spread of this disease. There's also likely medication and equipment to help support them through the hemorrhagic component of this process. But really, at this point, it's about minimizing the spread. What we know at this point is there's no commercially approved vaccine or therapeutics that we have for some other variants of Ebola. So our ability to intervene clinically on patients who are already sick is really limited to supportive care. And unfortunately, in that neck of the woods, is very limited.
Yo, VC, you think this is my first rodeo, man? Come on, man. It's pretty hard to get me tripped up in the chat, but
critical care. So I imagine right now those supplies are
Thank you for
mostly
that,
around
VC.
PPE and keeping the virus from spreading more profoundly in the regional area.
I agree with that,
And
Frank.
WHO officials or World Health Organization officials are very concerned about the speed of the spread of this virus. How does it spread? Is this considered a very contagious virus?
Yeah, it's important to draw some distinctions here. So when we think about spread in the general public setting, we think about things that are airborne, things like
Right, and that's a very good question, and he's going to get to this. But the thing is it transfers by human either blood, sexual, or like something like saliva, body fluids.
COVID, things like measles, where being in the room with someone who's sick and coughing really puts you at risk. This is really transmitted by body fluids, right? So somebody who has bleeding, vomiting, really exposure to body fluids, that's the primary and essentially the only real exposure. We see healthcare exposures doing invasive procedures like putting a breathing tube in, but otherwise the risk to the general public is relatively low. It's really a risk for those who are immediately taking care. So once again, we worry more for the public health setting about things like COVID and measles spread by airborne methods, whereas this is really spread by direct contact with the body fluids of someone who's profoundly ill.
All right, that's enough of this Ebola shit, to be honest. All right, let's go ahead and move on. All right, Russian. Let's see. We already talked about this. We already, discussed it a little bit. But let's go ahead and see if there's any updates from governmental officials or posts on, True Social or whatever from Trump. Let's go ahead and figure this out. Let's go ahead and bring this up. Russian President Vladimir Putin visits Beijing, and we already touched that, but let's go ahead and see as of this morning, because that report I showed you guys was from last night. This is from this morning right here. So
good morning, everyone, and thank you all for joining us here at Live Now from Fox on this.
We probably have more information this morning.
Wednesday, it is May 20th. My name is Karla Hara. Thank you to my colleagues Bowen Kadrovich and also Adam Lorenz, guiding you throughout the last couple of hours, bringing you updates to all breaking news stories. And
yes, we are on overtime. We're officially on overtime. No tax on tips, no tax on overtime. Let's get in those donations. Very much appreciate that.
Showcasing live events. I will be doing the same. Just before the commercial break, we were listening in to an update from the World Health Organization talking about Ebola and the steps that are being taken to make sure that people stay safe. Those cases continue to rise and the deaths also continue to rise. We're going to step away from that update, though, and touch on some more of these international headlines that we are focused on, specifically yet another summit happening in Beijing, China. Taking us out to a social media post courtesy of the Associated Press, says this: Chinese leader Xi Jinping has welcomed Russian President Vladimir Putin in Beijing in a meeting meant to reaffirm ties. The Associated Press goes on to say this, that Xi welcomed Putin with a ceremony at the Great Hall of the People only days after meeting with U.S. President Donald Trump. The quick succession of Trump's and Putin's visits highlighted Beijing's growing role as an international superpower. That's according to some experts. But let's break down exactly what this meeting means between both of those world leaders. Joining us next to do that is Jack Burnham. He's a research analyst for the China program at the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies.
There she
Jack,
is.
good morning.
Good morning to you.
All right, so let's just break it down, setting the scene here for the audience. Talk to us a little bit about the relationship that the Chinese president and the Russian president have.
These two have known each other for a number of years. This is Putin's 25th visit to China. These countries have continually and more closely cooperated, particularly following the outbreak of the war in Ukraine. This is a relationship that is marked by shared dependencies and has been brought together by Russia's invasion of Ukraine and a commitment to security cooperation between Russia and China as part of a growing axis of aggressors, bringing together Russia, China, Iran, and North Korea to challenge both the West and the U.S. interests abroad.
This is just some of the footage that we had from earlier today. Of course, a lot of this was not in English. We weren't able to showcase it, but you see both of the world leaders here meeting to sign a couple of declarations. It looked like they held a couple of ceremonies and a bilateral meeting. Going off of that first point, Jack, what are the most important strategic goals right now for both President Xi and President Putin? What are they likely pursuing in this meeting?
I think for Putin, it's around stability. The war in Ukraine is not going well. Just last week.
So his name is Jack from the Foundation of Federal Democracies or whatever it is. Defense of Democracies. I forget what it is. FDD.
Historically, one of the major holidays under Putin's regime, Red Square was denuded of the type of military vehicles and grandeur that it is specifically. So clearly, Russia is suffering from the effects of Ukraine. That doesn't mean it's necessarily an all-out collapse, but clearly Putin is realizing that the war is not going well, that the pressure is being felt. And the biggest backer of that war, international backer of that war predominantly has been China. China has been shipping dual-use goods. There was a report in Reuters just a few days ago that China had been secretly training Russian troops in various drone tactics before sending them back to Ukraine. So Russia really does need China to continue to put a floor under its war economy. And the Russian economy is also highly trade dependent on China, not only for military equipment, but also for the sale of energy, of replacing the sales that were lost when Europe put sanctions on Russian gas. For China, Russia is a bulwark. It provides a growing export market. It provides some types of military technologies that China is using to modernize its military. And there's also the question of energy. During the discussions, there was a discussion around a potential new pipeline.
Real quick, there's an update here from Russia. Let's go and see what's being said here.
Getting out its narrative around key issues facing the globe.
To your point there, Jack, I also have a social media post from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs for Russia. They say that on May 19th, President Putin arrived in Beijing for an official visit to China at the invitation of President Xi Jinping. The visit marks the 25th anniversary of the landmark Russia-China Treaty of Good Neighborliness, Friendship, and Cooperation. Jack, what does China gain politically from maintaining close ties with Russia at the same time that it's also trying to, work around that relationship with Washington?
I think what it gains from the close ties is security, benefits from security. Russia now is experiencing the types of contemporary combat situation that China may find itself in. I think it would.
Well, that's speculation, but yes, that is always their thought. But let's go ahead and move on. Trump speaks to reporters this morning ahead of his Connecticut trip. He should be in the air right now. Maybe he's even landed by now. I don't know. This came out 2 hours ago. President Trump speaks to reporters before heading to Connecticut, where he will deliver a commencement address to the U.S. Coast Guard. All right, let's go and bring this up. Here we go.
He's a vegan in Texas, and you can't get elected as a vegan in Texas.
Vegan? He can't get elected as a vegan in Texas. Okay, that's what we came in on. Shit. I didn't know you could survive as a vegan in Texas. I thought that all there were steers and queers, you know.
I did. They'll be all right with it. They want to win. I know how to win. Some of them don't know how to win. I know how to win. I think I've proven that, haven't I?
Are you worried about the ballroom funding, Mr. President? There's speculation that could be...
The ballrooms are being built. I'm building the ballroom. You saw it yesterday, right? Yeah. We're building a great ballroom. It's been needed. It's a very military complex. The roof is actually a drone port. The roof of the ballroom is a drone port, and it gives great safety to everything below. So it's good. We're building a really great ballroom, but it's also a strong military position for our people.
Do you think your colleague Netanyahu did better in the press briefing, or
do I think who?
Vance or Rubio did better in the press briefing?
I think they both did great. What do you want me to say, right? I think they both. Do you like
what do you want me to say?
I think they both did good. I watched both of them. So, both very good men, really are.
Did you have a call with Prime Minister Netanyahu?
Well, her husband votes against me all the time. Can you imagine? I don't know what's with him.
Yes, guys, you guys don't have to like all the craziness that's happening, but make sure you guys hit that like button. Double tap that screen if you're on the vertical side. Appreciate that.
You better ask him what's with him. Her husband, she's married to a certain congressman. He likes voting against Trump. You know what happens with that? Doesn't work out well. I don't know why he does. But.
Mr. President, are you going to Taiwan? Do you have any plans to call President Lai before you make your decision on the arms deal?
What?
Do you have any plans to call President Lai of Taiwan before you make a decision on the weapons package?
Well, I'll speak to him. I speak to everybody. We have that situation very well in hand. We had a great meeting with President-Xi. It was amazing, actually. It was amazing. Many of you were there. We'll work on that, the Taiwan problem.
What have you said to Prime Minister Netanyahu about Iran and how long to hold off on strike?
It's fine. He'll do whatever I want him to do. He's very, very good man. He'll do whatever I want him to do, and he's a great guy. To me, he's a great guy. Don't forget, he was a wartime prime minister, and he's not treated right in Israel, in my opinion. I'm right now at 99% in Israel. I could run for prime minister, so maybe after I
Jesus, that's not as big as a flex as you think it is.
do this, I'll go to Israel, run for prime minister. I had a poll this morning.
Oh my God, I can't believe you even just said that shit. That's crazy.
I'm 99%, so that's good. But no, he's a wartime prime minister, and I just don't think they treat him well. I think they have a president over there that treats him very poorly.
You're on the same page with him on Iran?
Yeah.
Mr. President, to anyone about replacing Lauren Boebert after she...
If somebody comes along, I'd look. It's a little late in the race, but if somebody comes along, I'd look. Certainly.
Poland troops, sir. Do you see yourself in him at all? A former reality TV star?
No, I'd like to see him do well. He's a character. I don't know him. I assume he probably supports me. Does he support me?
I think so.
I think so. Yeah, I heard he does. I heard he's a big MAGA person. He's doing well. I don't know. You know, you have a rigged vote out there. That's the problem. The votes are rigged. You have a really rigged vote in California. You have all the mail-in ballots, everything else. Very hard to win because the elections are very dishonest. If we had Jesus Christ come down and count the votes, I would have won California because I do great with Hispanics. But it's a rigged vote. They send out 38 million votes. Nobody knows where they're going. Of course, the Democrats, I guess. But disproportionately, Democrats get many more votes. Some get 8 votes. They get 8 cards. And Republicans have to call in, where's my card? It's a rigged system. One of the most, not the worst, I'll give you a list. Maybe I'll do my list. But California's one of the most dishonest states for voting.
What's your message to the cadets today?
Just enjoy your life, you know. I enjoy it. They're great guys. It's my second time at the Coast Guard.
Okay, so let me explain this. It's kind of interesting the way that they have it set up that way, right? So the president deals with more of the internal affairs in the country, right? On the smaller scale, right? Kind of like a local government, and so the prime minister deals with foreign affairs and stuff like that. So,
Academy, they're great guys. We like them. You know, you don't realize how important Coast Guard is until you have a hurricane. And I remember the big hurricane in Texas where these kids go on boats and they go into the waves that are 20 times higher than the boat. And I say, can they really make it? I'm watching this. And they say they find a way, but they were going into waves, these massive waves, to save people that were inside. And you don't realize it, but boy, they are good. They are good seamen. They are unbelievable. I wouldn't want to do it.
Mr. President,
I'm a very brave person, but I wouldn't want to do it.
What do you make of President-Xi meeting with Putin this week?
Well, he told me he was going to. I think it's good. I get along with both of them, but I think it's good. I don't know if the ceremony was quite as brilliant as mine. I watched. I think we topped them. Good team. But no, I get along with Putin. I get along with everybody, but your husband and a few others.
On the Iran deal, would you be open to a limited deal that just covered the Strait of Hormuz?
What does that mean?
On Iran, just a limited deal just for a longer ceasefire?
We'd have to open the strait. That would open immediately. So we're going to give this one shot. I'm in no hurry. You never think, oh, the midterms, I'm in a hurry. I'm in no hurry. Ideally, I'd like to see few people killed as opposed to a lot. We could do it either way, but I'd like to see few people killed. I just wonder whether or not they have the good of the people, because some of the things they're doing to me means they don't have the good of the people, and they have to have the good of the people. There's a lot of anger now in Iran because people are living so badly. There's a lot of foment that we haven't seen before so much, and we'll see what happens.
Is it taking longer than you expected it would to make a deal with Iran?
Well, let's put it this way. You were in Vietnam 19 years, right? You were in Afghanistan and these other places 10 years. You were in Iraq. How long were you in Iraq? 12 years? You were in Korea for 7 years. World War II is different. That was 4 years. I'm in for 3 months. And much of it's been ceasefire. So, and you know what? You lost hundreds of thousands of soldiers in these various wars. In 2 wars, Venezuela, where we lost nobody, and here, we lost 13 people. Now, 13 people is 13 too much, but we lost 13 people. In other wars, you lost hundreds of thousands of people. So people don't like it when you say, oh, do you know you've lost 13? We lost in 2 major wars. We took over Venezuela. We essentially took over Iran, and we've lost so far 13 people. Somebody else would have lost 100,000 people. Okay, but I get a kick when I look at somebody on television. He's lost 13 people. I lost 13 people. They lost 13 people leaving an airport. Obama, 13 very good people that I got to know their families. So what we've done is amazing, and we have them decimated. Iran is decimated, and I mean, you're going to see things that are amazing. You're going to see a lot of amazing things over the next 3 years for our country. And I'd like to talk more about the economic, because we have $18 trillion being spent, and no country's ever had anything like that. We have car plants pouring in from Mexico, Canada. They don't want to be there. There's no reason to be there because they want to sell our market. We have car companies and plants coming in from Germany, from South Korea, from Japan, coming in by the billions, and they're being built now. You're going to see things that nobody thought was possible. You're going to end up saying he's the greatest president that ever lived. Goodbye, everybody.
James called me over the weekend, Mr. President. He suggested that there's still people in your DOJ and FBI that are waiting you out. They're waiting until your administration is over to get back to work. Do you think those people are still in the DOJ and FBI?
I hope not. Well, we're going to seek them out. We'll seek them out. We'll get rid of them. Okay? Because you have in every agency, you have scum. And certainly they did in the FBI and DOJ. But Todd Blanche is doing a fantastic job. Cash is doing a very good job. So we will prevail. I've been standing here a long time with you, many years, right? And they've been saying, I think it's it. I think he's trouble. Here I am, you know. It's a very constant situation. But I think you're going to find that we have great people in the FBI and we have great people in DOJ. Todd Blanche has really been doing a great job, and a lot of things to come. We have a lot of things that are coming right now. So it's going to be great. Our country's doing well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President.
All right. So now we got two interesting story. Well, two things happening. We have one story, and then we have Mike Johnson speaking. House GOP leaders hold a press conference. We'll listen to the opening statement and stuff like that from that. But first, let's get into former Congressman Barney Frank dies at 86. Barney Frank, a Democratic congressman who represented Massachusetts, has died at the age of 86. All right, so let's go and bring this up. It's sad news to hear.
Now from
Here we
Fox,
go.
bringing you this breaking news. Former
But he lived a long, healthy life. 86, man, that's crazy.
Congressman Barney Frank has died at the age of 86. This is coming in from the Associated Press here. Frank, a quick-witted Democrat who gave his name to a landmark financial reform bill after the economic crisis of 2007 to 2009, passed away today at the age of 86.
Be good out there, PJ.
One of the best-known gay politicians of his time, Frank served for over 30 years in the U.S. House of Representatives as a member from Massachusetts and a liberal who gladly worked with Republicans. After representing Boston suburbs in Congress for 32 years, Frank and his husband moved to Maine. He entered hospice there in April with congestive heart failure and is survived by his husband and sister, the longtime Democratic strategist Ann Lewis. A self-described left-handed gay
His husband?
A Jew, Frank was known for his wit, combative style, and focus on marginalized communities. He represented the party's left wing.
Oh, man. Steve Easy. Man, you guys are...
While keeping close
boy, man, I got a question.
Why are you gay? You are gay.
with Democratic leaders who sometimes frustrated progressives. Now, Frank represented Massachusetts in the House from 1981 to 2013, serving 16 terms and becoming chairman of the House Financial Services Committee.
16 terms? 16 terms. Bruh. Holy shit.
During the 2008 financial crisis. His name became attached to the Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform and Consumer Protection Act, the sweeping 2010 law he co-authored with then-Senator Chris Dodd of Connecticut after the collapse of the housing market and the near failure of the U.S. financial system. He's best known as a pioneer for LGBT rights. After decades of grappling with his sexuality, he publicly came out as gay in 1987, the first member of Congress to do so voluntarily. With his 2012 marriage, he became the first incumbent lawmaker on Capitol Hill to marry someone of the same sex. But in an April interview as he entered hospice, Frank said he hoped he would be remembered for advocating a brand of politics that embraced progressive ideals without forcing them on voters prematurely. And I just want to read you a brief quote here. As he said, I hope I made the point that the best way to accomplish the improvements in our society that we need, particularly in making it less unfair economically and socially, is by conventional political methods. The main obstacle toward defeating populism and going further in the right direction is that mainstream Democrats have to make it clear that we oppose that part of the agenda of our friends on the left.
Dude, like 16 terms, for instance, right? Like, we got to prevent that shit. Lifetime career politicians. I mean, it's insane. It's insane that we have allowed that to happen. It's so wild to me.
That is politically unacceptable. They're right about a lot of things, but you have to have some discretion. A lot of social media reaction coming in here, and this is from former Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg, as he says, seeing coverage of Congress as a young man in Indiana, I remember watching Barney Frank run circles around bad faith arguments with his formidable intellect and unique political style. Years later, I'm not sure I would have had the chance to serve if Barney Frank hadn't demonstrated that courage, commitment, and skill can matter more than others. Imagination about what voters are ready for. He will be missed and remembered for generations. We do have other posts coming in here. This one says Barney
From Massachusetts governor.
Frank was one of a kind, a giant in public life who helped to change Massachusetts and America for the better. In Congress, Barney fought tirelessly for working people, civil rights, and LGBTQ plus equality. He was brilliant, fearless, quick-witted, and never afraid to say exactly what was on his mind. Joanne and I are keeping his family and all who loved him in our thoughts.
All right, so let's go and move on. Let's get into this opening statements here from the House GOP leaders. They're holding a conference. So.
We can make sure that it is never forgotten. And we can make sure that families that they left behind and the men and women who continue to serve are supported in a real and meaningful way. And that commitment doesn't end with the when the uniform comes off. So in Utah, one of my constituents, Terry Scow, has continued to serve as a role model in the veterans advocacy. He was instrumental in reopening a state veterans house and office. He helped create 4 new veterans homes in the state, and he even inspired his own sons to serve. He's making sure those who carried the burden of war don't have to carry it alone. That's what honoring service looks like. Not just remembering the fallen, but standing with those who came home. And that's exactly what House Republicans are focused on. Last week, we pushed forward and passed the Milcon VA Appropriations Bill, the first bill of the fiscal year 2027, because taking care of our service members, veterans, and their families should always be the first thing that we do. This week, we're continuing that work with common sense legislation to strengthen veterans' benefits, protect those who served, and deliver on promises we've made. Because this is what common sense leadership looks like. You honor sacrifice not just with words, but with action. And that's where a clear contrast is. Our Republican priority will always be to be putting government ahead of Americans. Our priority is the American people, the American family, the working family, the veterans family, and the like. Bottom line, we will always stand for those who stood for us, not just on Memorial Day, but every single day. And with that, I hand it over to the great state of Texas, Mr. Jake Ellzey.
Thank you, Blake. It's indeed an honor to be standing in front of you. I'm not worthy to be able to talk to you today on behalf of my fellow veterans and those who didn't come home, but I hope that my words honor them and their families. I spent 20 years in the world's finest Navy as a helicopter and fighter pilot, and then I got to serve here, one of only 11,000 Americans. It is indeed an honor to be talking to you today. You know, as Blake said, we passed the Milcon VA bill 400 to 15. So when you out in the audience today get to speak about what we do and don't do here, I want you to keep in mind that while there's clickbait out there all the time about how divided we are, understand this one thing, that Americans come together. I don't know who the 15 were who decided to vote no on this bill, but 400 Americans in the House of Representatives, Republican and Democrat, chose to honor and serve our veterans. $900 million going to...
That's a W. Now, hopefully it actually does honor and reaches the vets. I hope it doesn't go to, like, some sort of administrator for the VA or some bullshit. That needs to reach the vets. Anyways,
to advance medical care, $2 billion going to improving our facilities in the VA. Second Amendment rights for our veterans in there. 400 to 15. We do good work in here. Also,
so it's gonna go to making the VA better, I suppose. Okay, yeah.
As Blake mentioned, we got a bill on Thursday and Friday addressing benefits.
Trust me, the VA definitely needs help. It definitely. I'm not gonna say that it doesn't, but. Yeah, I mean, let's make it more efficient for these vets to be able to go and get seen. And man, why is the VA just Commeyville on that level? It's
for
just terrible.
Survivors and veterans' Second Amendment rights. But since we are on a Memorial Day, I would be remiss if I didn't mention to you, as we go about our business every day, and we've got a weekend coming ahead of us that is full of joy and sales, I want to point out a couple of people. When I deployed with Morgan Luttrell, my brother, in Iraq in 2006, I was with Team 5 as a JTAC. This young man right here, Clark Schwedler, I'm reminded of him every day, and I hope to honor his service how I conduct myself up here. I wear him on my wrist. I chose this picture because Clark Schwedler didn't have anybody but that dog. He had his parents, but he lost his life, gave his life for both the Iraqis and the American people on April 6th of 2007. He didn't get to come home. I chose the dog picture because he brought that back. His teammates brought that back to him, and his parents got to keep that dog. But I want you to say his name either loudly or quietly to yourself, Clark Schwedler, because that's what Memorial Day is about. On the same operation on April 6th.
All right, so let's go ahead and get into what I want to hear here is not the entire board here, to be honest. What I do want to hear from is I want to hear from Mike Johnson here.
Take a moment to reflect on something that just happened. It was on Sunday a few days ago. We had the Rededicate 250 event on the National Mall. It was really an extraordinary thing. Many thousands of Americans came out to participate in that. An historic event. It was a welcome opportunity to recommit ourselves to the cause that our founders fought and died for 250 years ago. And sadly, too many young Americans are no longer taught the moral and religious foundations of our extraordinary country. And that is the source of our greatness, the reason we became the most free, most successful, most powerful, most benevolent nation in the history of the world. But evidently, some in the mainstream media missed all that history lesson as well. And I just wanted to comment, it was brought to my attention yesterday that MS Now, formerly MSNBC, mocked me in a big segment they had. And the reason they mocked me was because in my remarks, I led the prayer of rededication on the mall. I stated the self-evident truth that our rights do not derive from government, they derive from our creator. And they had this entire segment about how ridiculous that was and what a crazy notion, and isn't Johnson such a crazy fundamentalist, et cetera. The best part is I was literally quoting from the Declaration of Independence. So let me take this opportunity. I want to just direct my friends in the mainstream media to the second paragraph of our nation's birth certificate, the Declaration, which remains the most foundational and consequential sentence in all of American history. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. They're endowed by their creator with certain inalienable rights, among those rights to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. It shouldn't be too much to ask that the people who talk about politics on TV on a network that millions of Americans tune into have a basic understanding of America's political foundations. I hope this serves as a friendly reminder to every American that the best civic education is not from your favorite TV anchor or late night host. Okay, it comes from our founding documents. You ought to go read the Declaration and the Constitution and the Federalist Papers and the other foundational texts that shape and guide our country. And as we approach the 250th birthday of the greatest nation in history, I encourage all of us to revisit those founding documents. It's really important. It's really important. The founders believed that in order to keep a constitutional republic, to maintain the republic, you had to have an informed and engaged electorate, the people, a government of, by, and for the people ourselves. The people have to be engaged. They have to know basic civics. They got to know their foundations. And quite clearly, we need that review. At least some of the media do. Okay. All right. Regarding this week on reconciliation, on housing, on women's museum, et cetera. We've got a very consequential week ahead of us here. There's a lot going on, as you know, and the leadership team's covered it here. Republicans are still on track to complete the reconciliation process on time by the June 1 deadline that we set. And Leader Scalise talked about that.
Certainly
We're going to fully
hope.
fund immigration.
Oh, shit. Real quick, we got Brother Solo out with the 10 spot saying overtime pay. Yes, sir. Thank you very much for that. And that definitely goes a long way. Thank you for making it rain in the chat, my man.
Enforcement and border security.
Hell yeah.
And a reconciliation bill.
Trigger warning?
Again, it's worthy of note. That is rather a shocking proposition.
true.
The Democrats don't want to have anything to do. Think of it. They don't want to give $1, 1 penny to border enforcement, border security, and immigration enforcement. So sadly, we've got to do that ourselves. We don't yet know exactly what form that bill will take because it's still going through the parliamentary process there. And
Yeah, it's going to come up soon. And guess what? It's going to get into another predicament where both sides of the aisle are going to be like, nope, we're not conceding in this. So
working through the committees and the floor vote, but we'll process it as soon as we get it, and we're anxiously awaiting it in the House. We expect that that's going to happen here by Thursday. That's the hope. House Republicans also voting this week on that bipartisan bill to lower the cost of housing for working families. And we worked really hard on that, and it has been bipartisan. Increased housing costs and lack of quality supply are two issues that impact nearly every American family. And the House will vote tomorrow on a strong bipartisan package that'll put more American families into homes. It's going
you be safe out there, Brother Steve Easy. We always appreciate
to
you, man.
increase the supply, and it's going to make it easier for local banks to deploy capital in their own communities. And all those things are going to help with the cost of living, help with affordability. It's going to be a big thing for the people. The House and Senate remain closely aligned on getting the best possible product to the president's desk, and we'll do that in very short order. On the Women's History Museum, I'll just say, we're going to take that up. Nicole Malliotakis, representative from Staten Island, worked very hard on this and drawn a big coalition of people. I think it has almost maybe 270, 280 co-sponsors at this point. The Smithsonian American Women's History Museum. Nicole and others have done a lot of good faith work for years on this. 230 bipartisan co-sponsors is the actual number right now. But suddenly, the Democratic Party, we're in serious trouble. The party that purports to support women.
I skipped ahead there, by the way.
Demanding that the museum include biological men. The Democrats may be okay ceding control of their party to the most radical far left people in the country, but Republicans are not going to be any part of that. We're not going to stand for it. And neither are the overwhelming majority of Americans who still believe in common sense. Finally, Memorial Day, I'm so grateful for Jake Elsie, our colleague. He was a Top Gun pilot. He looks the part, doesn't he? Straight out of Central Casting. He's got the great voice and all that. But the fact that he comes up here and speaks from the heart and talks about all those who served and paid the ultimate sacrifice is a really serious thing. And we give credit where credit's due. And I want to thank our Republican House Chairman, Mike Bost, and Representative Tom Barrett, worked on these two bills that will safeguard the constitutional rights of American veterans and deliver meaningful relief to Gold Star families. At a time when the world faces grave threats, not the least of which include Iran, the largest state sponsor of terror, every one of us is keenly aware that American strength and freedom are not free, and they're paid for by the selfless service of military personnel who serve our nation every single day. And we're reminded of that fact. We're going to pause to remember those and their families, those who paid the ultimate sacrifice for our freedom. We benefit from their heroic work every day, and we should never take that for granted. Real quick word on the primary results last night. That's the big political news, of course. Last night, just in a nutshell.
That's what I was truly waiting for him to comment on right there. So let's hear it.
I talked with the president late last night after everything was all the dust was settling over all the elections. And we talked about how his endorsement is the most powerful in the history of politics. I mean, anywhere in the world. I think it's just a phenomenon. I wasn't involved in the Kentucky primary, Thomas Massey's primary. The leadership team wasn't because he's an incumbent. But the president certainly made his opinion known, and I'm not surprised by the results there. The president knows what's at stake in this fall's elections, and he and I need conservative patriots here ready to help us continue saving America. And that's why we're working hand in hand to defend and grow.
What's up, Big Dan? Great to see you in the chat, by the way. Good morning to you, kind sir.
This House Republican majority. I'm convinced we're going to do that. I'm thrilled about 3 more of our endorsed candidates who are going to do just that. They advanced last night. Ralph Alvarado in Kentucky, Houston Gaines, and Jim Kingston in the state of Georgia. All 3 of those are going to be great members next year as we defend and grow this majority. And at the same time, this is what's really important for everybody to be paying attention to. There's an effect happening around the country, and y'all have heard me summarize it this way. The best way to describe it, in short summary, is that there are many Mamdanis popping up all around the country running for Congress as Marxist, openly as socialist Marxist. And it's a race to the far, far, far left. And as we say all the time, this is not our father's Democratic Party. This group has been taken over. I mean, the Democratic Party has been totally taken over by the far left, and Hakeem Jeffries and the team here can't do anything about it. In fact, Republicans are the only ones that can stop them from destroying our country, and that's why we must and we will win. But they continue to nominate some extremely radical candidates last night. Even people, there's a candidate in Pennsylvania stolen from his own family, and he won the primary on the Democrat side. They're going to lose these swing districts. And in summary, we'll go to questions, but in summary, this is what it boils down to. You heard the leader say it. You've heard all of us say this over and over and over. This is a contrast election, okay? And at the end of the day, the American people have to just look at this. It's contrast between common sense and crazy. We're going to ask the people. I mean, as all of our candidates and our incumbents are out in the field, they're just ask the questions. Do you want to keep the team in charge who secured the border, got dangerous criminal illegal aliens out of your communities and brought down crime, that got American energy dominance going again, that returned us to peace through strength, that has put all the conditions in the economy to...
Last I heard, she actually took her first couple of steps. I heard that she did great. So there is some good news. But the last update I got on her was maybe about the end of last week.
To make your life better and bring down the cost of living and higher paychecks and higher tax refunds, and got men out of women's sports and little girls' locker rooms and into trans surgeries on minors. Do you want to keep that team, that party in charge of Washington? Or do you want to turn it over to the people that want to do the opposite of all those things I just described? It's a serious contrast. It's a serious chasm, a widening chasm between the two parties that didn't exist here even 20, 30 years ago. But this is where we are. And you got to keep America on track, and that's what this election is about. Okay, a few questions. Yeah, first.
All right, so that is where we're going to end it this morning. Ladies and gentlemen, I can't thank each and every single one of you guys enough for the amount of love, support, engagement in the comment section, making sure you guys hitting that like button on the way in or on the way out. Listen, man, we're honored with it. So listen, we'll be back actually tonight for the Diamond Effect around 7:10 p.m. Central Standard Time. And we'll be back, of course, then after that, tomorrow morning for more of the world's madness as we continue down this truth-seeking adventure. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, always appreciate you guys. God bless everyone. We'll see you guys very soon. Stay safe out there, and much love.
From the depths of darkness, a voice emerges.